Hello and welcome. I'm Kevin Johns and will be your lecturer today. I have been a lecturer at Rutgers Business School since 2007. I'm part of the Management and Global Business faculty. I have a background in AI because most of my career was done in the industry, working for IBM for over 30 years. So I have a good understanding of artificial intelligence, where it came from, an historical perspective of it, and how it uh, migrated into what we have today with this generative AI applications such as ChatGPT. So this should be a good session in terms of an introduction of the strategic use of GenAI in business management. This module addresses a pressing and timely need, educating students on the responsible and practical use of generative AI. This course emphasizes non-technical conceptual understanding of Gen AI, focusing on its strategic value rather than its deep technical mechanics. So Gen AI is already complementing roles in industries such as entertainment and education, Hollywood writers, higher ed research, but it's also replacing roles within high technology companies such as IBM, Microsoft, and Facebook. So this module ensures students are not left behind as companies demand Gen AI fluency. They'll know how to strategically apply Gen AI in workplace settings and learn to critically evaluate Gen AI outputs, avoiding over-reliance and misusage like hallucinated sources. So for our agenda today, I'm going to go into an introduction and historical perspective of Gen AI, a bit on the competition and industry perspective, do a terminology level set, traditional AI versus Gen AI, and then go into a little bit more in terms of what Gen AI actually is. Talk about ethics concerning AI and industry case studies using Gen AI as examples, and then the future of Gen AI. So this course will help you to advance your preparedness for careers in Gen AI integrated environments. It'll align the curriculum with corporate evolution, including Gen AI-driven job restructuring, and will review the implications of using Gen AI in business. Now, I worked most of my career at IBM. I was trained as a systems engineer, and then I had multiple roles after that in marketing, sales, and alliance management. But in the early 80s, when I visited the Almaden Research Lab in California, I had a chance to talk to scientists, researchers who were collecting large amounts of data. And the data was, as an example, related to the weather in terms of weather patterns since 1900. So they were taking all of that data, storing it, and creating models against it, models to analyze that data. And the end result was predictions of future weather patterns. Uh, and it really was the forefront of predictive analytics. So here we had researchers who were creating these models. And again, something just to note in terms of the relevance of the data, because the data had to be accurate and valid, because if it's garbage data in, you're going to get garbage results out of it. So the data had to really be accurate and the models had to be good. So the researchers worked on this and they were able to develop their own queries using the model to do predictive analytics. So this is an example of how research got involved in developing something new and create a service offering for business clients, a B2B type of environment. And then that led to artificial intelligence moving to the consumer environment. So today with Gen AI, that is very, very consumer oriented, because in years past, when you were using these models for artificial intelligence and predictive analytics, you basically had to have a scientist or a researcher sitting next to you, talking to you in terms of, well, what kind of queries do you want to uh, put into the model to analyze the data? What results are you looking to gain? So you really need to work with a researcher to do that. In today's world, with the coming of Gen AI, it's really up to us now. We don't have to have somebody sitting next to us. We can do our own prompts, which has changed. It's not queries anymore. Now it's prompts in Gen AI to create new content, analyze data in situations that we want to ask questions about. So you can see how this has, you know, trans transformed from artificial intelligence when I was at the Almaden lab in the early 80s, going into the business environment and now into the generative AI world. So it's changed. It's changed quite a bit. Now, just to go a little bit further, pre-1967, classrooms long ago sanctioned the use of different sorts of calculating equipment. This is the slide rule in the upper left-hand corner. Arguably, one of the most controversial pieces of education technology to enter the classroom has been the calculator. And you see the picture of the TI calculator on the right-hand side. I actually had that calculator when I was going into high school in the mid 70s. And it was not widely accepted even then, even though it's been out for 10 years, I think, at that time. Teachers didn't know how to deal with it. They had to adapt with students bringing in calculators and doing math exams with it, when in the past you couldn't use a calculator. Maybe you could use a slide rule, but a slide rule was a specialty type training. Either you're really focused in on mathematics in high school, or when you were going to college, you really wanted to kind of get into engineering. So teachers really had to adapt with the use of calculators. So, for example, math exams had more complicated equations where a calculator was necessary. They adapted to it. So, in 1975, the National Advisory Committee on Mathematical Education issued a report on calculators, suggesting that those in the eighth grade and above should have access to them for all classwork and exams. 5 years later, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics recommended that mathematic programs should take full advantage of calculators in all grade levels. So this is an interesting historical perspective in terms of, okay, the calculator really kind of changed things around. Now, with the coming of Gen AI, that's cause a lot of changes to take place as well. So again, teachers, instructors have to adapt because at first, band didn't know how to deal with it, had to make changes to the way classrooms are run, how exams are given, etc. So it was a real game changer. But it's not going away. It's here to stay. And it's more rapidly becoming adopted, I think, in today's world than how calculators were adopted back in the mid 70s. And the thing it's really kind of interesting to note here is that you're going to be using Gen AI in the workplace. That's an important thing to want to keep in mind as we go through this presentation. It's not going away. Businesses are adopting it, academic institutions are adopting it, but they're all trying to figure out what's the best way to go about it. What's the strategy to use Gen AI in those type of settings? So, competition for Gen AI. OpenAI was the first to release ChatGPT in November of 2022. Now, OpenAI, if you haven't noticed this, that was the first. There were lots of investors involved in OpenAI's ChatGPT. Musk was involved with it. Microsoft was heavily involved with it, I think up to like maybe 50% of investment. So they all kind of initially worked on it, and now they kind of went their separate ways. So Claude, that chatbot, has a similar user interface to ChatGPT, and it can respond to text or image inputs, though it can't generate images itself. ChatGPT can, Claude cannot. Claude's really used, I think it's being adopted more in the academic environment. Meta Llama, it's not only one of the best open source um, LLMs on the market, but it also used it was used to power Meta AI, which is a little bit down below. So Llama basically is the environment that's behind Meta AI. And then Microsoft Copilot. Copilot was initially known as Bing Chat, an assistant that was launched in February of 2023 and was later uh, rebranded in November of 2023. So X, uh, Elon Musk's Grok, and that's an interesting name. I've used it. It looks very similar to ChatGPT. I even asked Grok saying, why do you look so similar to ChatGPT? And I think it came back saying, hey, originally they were all part of OpenAI's development to create a GenAI application, and then they kind of went their separate ways. So Google Gemini, if you haven't been on Google lately, you notice that um, Gemini is answering all the questions. It's there, and that gives Google and the other GenAI app, Copilot, a bit of an advantage because they already have search engines that were developed. And so the interesting thing about the competition is that, hey, if you get used to using one of these, whether it's Gemini, Copilot, or ChatGPT, and it's developing a new feature, don't be overly concerned because the others will soon follow suit with that additional feature as well. I'll talk more about that later in the presentation. So, it's interesting now to see that ChatGPT, right, has its own search engine. Again, the others had it. ChatGPT was at a little bit of a disadvantage, so they developed their own search engine. So you'll see that when you go on to ChatGPT, I think it's for the 5.0 release. And DeepSeek, that kind of created a little bit of interesting environment when it first came out in January 2025. The Chinese developed something with half the cost and half the amount of time, and it really created an impact in the stock market back in January. But the problem with DeepSeek is that it has serious privacy concerns, security vulnerabilities, and the potential for the content to be manipulated and censored by the Chinese government. So that's been a bit of a concern. So you don't see that being talked about as much lately. So how artificial intelligence, Gen AI, is transforming business today. I have a few examples here of companies, right, covering different functional areas such as customer service. So you have Klarna. Klarna is a Swedish credit card. It uses Visa, um, and it deployed a GenAI customer service agent to handle inquiries across multiple markets, reportedly resolving the equivalent workload of 700 support agents. But it has since started to hire humans back to support complex questions and issues. So GenAI couldn't really handle everything. Verizon uses conversational AI assistants to help customers and suggest solutions based on their profiles. United Airlines uses AI to provide customers with detailed, personalized explanations for flight delays, app notifications, and improves customer experience overall. So in the area of marketing and personalization, you have Virgin Voyages, the cruise company uses text to video features to generate thousands of personalized ads and emails. PepsiCo, along with its brand of Lay's potato chips, launched a 2021 interactive marketing campaign called Messy Messages, based on Lionel Messi. The campaign, which won a Cannes Lions Award, used artificial intelligence to let fans create personalized video messages from Lionel Messi. So you can see how this, kind of developed into the whole Gen AI world that we have today. Knowledge management and productivity. Adidas implemented a conversational AI tool that allows engineers to ask questions and receive answers from the company's knowledge database, reducing administrative tasks. Vodafone, one of the largest communication companies in the world today, uses GenAI to reduce the time employees spend on administrative tasks. And within operations and analytics, you have some oil and gas companies here. BP uses GenAI-based systems to analyze data from equipment sensors to predict malfunctions and schedule preventive maintenance. Shell applies this GenAI to analyze real-time data and predict optimal drilling parameters, reducing risks and costs. So additional examples here. Of the AI influence in the high tech and entertainment environment. IBM is focusing on high growth areas like its software and generative AI platforms like Watson X. This requires a workforce with different skills, so the company is rebalancing its staff from other areas. More on that a little bit later in terms of what that rebalancing is looking like. IBM is automating some jobs, particularly in the areas like human resources and marketing, using AI agents to replace workers and then redirecting those workers to more customer-facing and technical roles. Yeah, that's true, and I'll talk a little bit about that because they're replacing nearly 8,000 jobs, but they said that they were going to hire back 8,000 potential employees specific with AI background. So they're kind of like rebalancing their whole environment. Um, the Los Angeles Times reported that Gen AI is impacting Hollywood writers by creating a need for new protections against job displacement and the use of their work to train AI models, while also raising concerns about the devaluation of creative work and potential changes to compensation structures. The Writers Guild of America addressed these issues in its 2023 contract with writers, resulting in rules that ban AI from writing or rewriting literary material and ensure human writers are credited with and compensated appropriately. Students, again, you'll be using Gen AI tools in the workplace. So this is a bit of an example of how businesses are transforming their environment with AI and Gen AI. It's a difference maker. It really is a big difference maker. So companies that have already replaced workers with AI in 24 and 25, Microsoft, 15,000 employees were laid off. Again, IBM laid off 8,000, but they said that, well, we're going to hire 8,000 other employees with an AI type background. But I think that's misleading because I haven't really seen 8,000 new hires in IBM. So I think that was a little bit misleading, even though that statement was originally made. Google laid off hundreds of employees. Uh, Dukan, if I'm pronouncing that right, that's an Indian e-commerce agency that replaced 90% of its customer service with bots. IKEA, a little bit different. They phased out their call center, but they retrained their employees. They kept them. They didn't let them go. Blue Focus, a Chinese marketing agency, human content writers were gone. They used Gen AI to do content. Salesforce, 10% of its workforce. Duolingo, same thing, 10%. Klarna replaced 700 workers with AI. And Best Buy announced an AI venture with Google and Accenture. So again, a lot of things that are happening with Gen AI, not necessarily the best in terms of creating new jobs, but it will happen over time in terms of new career paths in artificial intelligence and Gen AI, but at the same time, other workers being displaced by Gen AI applications. Now, even in the educational world, companies such as Che, Grammarly, Course Hero, and Quillbot, even in academia academia, companies like Che, Grammarly, Course Hero, they've all been affected with the onslaught of Gen AI and were forced to do layoffs. Che had a 4% staff layoff, and Grammarly laid off 230 employees as an example. They're trying to catch up to GenAI by writing their own apps or having one of the existing apps, such as ChatGPT, embedded into their software. And you can see the picture where ChatGPT is embedded into Chegg. So either they have to develop their own, embed what's out there already, or find a new growth area of their business. And that may not really work out because Gen AI is already replacing some of these educational tools that students have been used to using over the years. So I just want to take a step back and just do a little bit of a level set here. So what do these terms really mean? Because they have a tendency to be used interchangeably. And forgive me, but I'm going to read through these things because it's important for me to kind of go through each of these terms and the words associated with them. So, artificial intelligence, AI uses machine learning to analyze data, recognize patterns, learn from experience, and make complex adaptive decisions, handling tasks that require more intelligence and flexibility. So, that's a good example of what I showcased earlier about IBM doing research on historical weather data and creating models against that data and asking questions within that model in terms of predicting weather in the future. So robotics process automation, RPA uses software robots to automate predefined rule-based tasks such as data entry without any decision-making or learning capabilities. So RPA is just, you know, 2 + 2 = 3, filling out forms for insurance companies, things that are repetitive tasks that it doesn't need the models to be changed. It doesn't need a lot of instruction to do the same thing over and over again. And they've been in use for quite some time now. Generative AI. Gen AI models are trained on a set of data and learn the underlying patterns to generate new data that mirrors the training set. In other words, Gen AI can create new content, totally new content from what it's learning from understanding the patterns associated with the data. AI takes a little bit of a step back from that. So Gen AI an extend forward from artificial intelligence. So again, these terms get used, they kind of get tossed about a little bit. So I want just to kind of do a level set in terms of what these are all about. So let's go through the features here, the focused capabilities, adaptability, and how they interact between traditional AI and Gen AI. So a little bit more of a deep dive here. So on the focus area, traditional AI learns from existing structured data, whereas Gen AI develops new original content. That's the key differentiator here. Capabilities. Traditional AI excels at rule-based tasks. Gen AI creates and synthesizes content. It's adaptable. And going into adaptability here, traditional AI can be rigid, requires reprogramming. Gen AI is highly flexible and prompt-driven. So, queries associated with traditional AI, prompts associated with Gen AI. Kind of interesting in terms of how they're changing the names of these applications being used. How they interact. Traditional AI often paired with Gen AI for data analysis combined together. Gen AI extends traditional AI capabilities. So do they all come under the artificial intelligence umbrella? The answer is yes, but it's the adaption and the transcending or transforming, I guess is a better word, of artificial intelligence into generative AI. So, if you can imagine you're playing a computer chess, I have a picture down below. Uh, the computer knows all the rules. It can predict your moves and make its own moves based on predefined strategies. It's not inventing new ways to play chess, but selecting from strategies it was programmed with. Gen AI is a category of AI, extension of AI, like I said before, While traditional AI focuses on analyzing existing data to make predictions or classify information, Gen AI goes a step further by using machine learning to create new content. That's the key, new content. Tilly Norwood, the picture on the right, she's entirely AI generated. She's an actress. She's a character. She's new content. She's considered art and is widely considered a prominent controversial example of new art created by generative AI. She's not a real human being. A little bit more on that later. So what is GenAI? Well, it's an LLP, natural language processing prompt-based model developed by OpenAI. And again, investors, Google, Microsoft, others were all part of this. It was developed by OpenAI. It was launched in November of 2022. It'll answer your questions based on a Bing search engine. Microsoft was involved with it. The ownership pie is split between Microsoft, 49%, so I was close to the 50% I said earlier, and other stakeholders like Elon Musk. ChatGPT's current capabilities allow it to converse with humans on a wide range of topics, answer factual questions, make jokes, and even generate creative writing prompts. ChatGPT is also capable of learning and improving over time as it processes more data. It can now hold your memories, which is a concern about security. Originally, when went into ChatGPT, it didn't keep your prompts, didn't store them, didn't provide references at first, and wasn't exactly very good in terms of doing complicated math equations. And that's changed and is going to constantly change. So it now holds your memories. It will keep your prompts in ChatGPT, which is a security type issue, which is a concern in the future because as Gen AI, as ChatGPT gets more functional features associated with it, it might be doing things for you on your behalf that you're kind of letting it go off and do, and you have to keep tabs on it. Financial type implications, checkbook balancing, writing or managing your credit cards, your debit cards, your account balances. So this is a little bit of concern regarding security. Now you can go in and you could go into the setup in ChatGPT and switch off uh, using ChatGPT to improve learning based on your prompts. You can switch it off. You can't do it with Gemini. I tried it. And ChatGPT, even though you could switch it off, don't use your prompts to enhance its learning capabilities. There's a concern. Is it really doing that? There is a bit of a concern. And these Gen AI apps, Gemini, ChatGPT, Copilot, etc., they're hiring specialists, hackers to get into the system so they could test how secure it is and understand where they need to go to make it more secure in the future. So again, there's a concern about you know, the security of ChatGPT and the features and functions that it has now and where it's going to go in the future. References, as I said before, it didn't originally supply references. Now it does. It'll supply references even in the format that you ask it to. But are those references accurate? That's something you have to go in and validate. It still hallucinates. It still makes mistakes. And I've seen it done recently. You can trick ChatGPT. So, what is it? It's a very sophisticated chatbot, but can it reason like a human? Good question. We'll get into that a little bit later. So, the popularity of the tool really has been nothing but incredible. For example, after 3 months when it first came out, ChatGPT received an average of 13 million unique visitors per day. Now it's over in the hundreds of millions. It's amazing how it's being adopted so quickly. In terms of usage limits and pricing, this is not just limited or associated with ChatGPT. The other Gen AI applications are doing the same thing. First, they put it out for free. Go out, use it, learn it, get to know it, love it, love it. And you know, wanting to have it with you all the time, kind of like how your cell phone is attached to us all the time. So that was the overall strategy, the business strategy. Get it out there, get it used. It's free. Now they introduce subscription pricing. In other words, hey, you can use it for free, but you're going to be limited to so many prompts. And then the next level is the paid tier, ChatGPT Plus, $20 a month. You get more prompts. You're not limited to the free version. You get more access to the plugins, right? And you get access to the latest releases, $20 per month. And the pro version, it used to be $25 for a team, which obviously that pricing kind of went out the door. Now it's $200 a month. Now you get everything in the Plus version, higher limits. You get access to the latest release. ChatGPT 5 is out now. Image generation, advanced data analytics, all the plugins are available to you as well. So again, all of the Gen AI applications are now using this type of business strategy in terms of subscription type pricing. So sometimes, there are limits, set per user account to manage server resources or to encourage users to upgrade to higher tiers for more intensive use. So if you've seen any of these messages saying, hey, you're out of prompts, come back in 24 hours, it might be worth checking into the terms of service or support documentation of the service you're using to understand the specific limits and how you can manage them. So in other words, understand where they're going with this thing because again, they're all doing it. They're all doing it. And it could end up getting costly, especially if you have a business with thousands of employees all needing a license for ChatGPT. And $20 a month or $200 a month can end up being very expensive when you think about it. So this chart originally is showing all the plugins available for ChatGPT. A lot of these things are now incorporated in the latest release of 5.0, but originally ChatGPT wasn't really good at doing math or uh, calculations, intense calculations, or physics, for example. So they plugged in Wolfram Alpha. Other applications down below, several travel and dining reservation applications, including Expedia, Booking.com, and OpenTable. They use or have integrated with ChatGPT for tasks like trip planning, personalized recommendations. These integrations allow users to interact with the services directly within ChatGPT with its interface, search for flights, hotels, dining, and more, getting real-time data and options. So, for example, with Expedia, it integrated ChatGPT in its own app to help with trip planning, offering AI-powered features like personalized recommendations, price tracking, and a virtual agent for unexpected changes. It is also available as an app within ChatGPT itself. So again, all this stuff, all of these plugins, all getting integrated together, and it's happening very quickly. It's happening very quickly. So will AI, RPA, and Gen AI converge? Very interesting question. So I kind of did a level set earlier between AI, RPA, and Gen AI. It's a timely question and one that many experts across the business and technology are actively debating. The short answer, in my opinion, is yes. AI, RPA, and Gen AI are already converging, and that convergence will accelerate in the next 3 to 5 years. And here's how and why this merger is happening. The distinctions are already blurring. Traditional AI focuses on pattern recognition and decision making like fraud detection, predictive analytics. RPA focuses on automating repetitive rule-based tasks, data entry, invoice matching. Generative AI adds creativity, natural language understanding, and content generation. Examples, drafting reports, generating codes, summarizing text. So as organizations embed Gen AI models into RPA workflows and augment traditional AI with natural language reasoning, these once separate tools are becoming part of a unified automative automation ecosystem. It's going to happen. And this is where it's going to go or become cognitive automation. AI, RPA, and Gen AI, they're all converging into a single intelligent automation continuum where RPA would be the execution layer, AI the detection layer, and Gen AI the reasoning and creativity layer. Together, they're evolving towards what some call the cognitive enterprise, where digital workers can think, reason, and act alongside humans. I'll get more into that towards the end when I get into when I talk about robotics a bit. So let's get into ethics. A lot of you are aware of this and have read about it. It's been on the table since Gen AI has come out. Does it provide false information, which they call hallucinations? Yes, still does. It still does. Uh, when asked to back up an argument with citations from scholarly texts, it misattributes work to the wrong authors. It's getting better at it. Originally, ChatGPT said that, well, we don't do references. That changed. I think it was beginning of last summer, where it provided references, but they weren't right. So that's a concern. Now they're better. They'll provide it in the right format if you ask it, but you have to validate it. You can't just take the references by ChatGPT's recommendation. You have to validate them. And your prompts and data entered into ChatGPT helps to train it, and that data becomes public. You have to be careful in terms of putting personal information into ChatGPT. But then again, we're used to ordering things online with our credit cards, debit cards, etc. At some point, we'll be allowing ChatGPT access to those credit cards, financial information. That's where security becomes a major issue. Big concern. They're working on it, but again, anything anything can be hacked out there, and that's something that is a bit of a concern for everyone involved here. The copyright work of authors. ChatGPT cannot own what it writes, as it is just an artificial intelligence. Can't own it. But a group of well-known authors, including John Grisham, George Martin, they're suing OpenAI and ChatGPT over the alleged misuse of their work to train the popular ChatGPT chatbot. The suit claims that the company, OpenAI, using ChatGPT, reproduced and appropriated the copyrighted work of tens of thousands of authors to train their artificial intelligence models, and that this violation of copyright law was done knowingly. That's a big, big concern these days. On this topic, it's important to note that the question of ownership and authorship of AI-generated works is not fully settled by the law yet. It's a hot topic. It may evolve in years to come, depending upon regulatory changes and on case law. For now, it seems that artists, creators who use AI to support their creative process may be able to claim ownership of the work if it reflects their choices and creativity. On the other hand, a generic command such as write a new love song would end up in ChatGPT generating a love song's text without any real creative choices originating from the user. In such cases, the existence of copyright or a work in the sense of copyright law is quite doubtful. So basically, nobody has an answer to this as of yet. And it's a concern. It's a concern that a lot of folks, people in business, in various industries like entertainment, are going to have to work through. Now, let's talk about a few case studies for some companies, how they're using Gen AI. So this is a social media ad agency. I can't name the company because it's too new and I was working with them. So this social media advertising agency, they create content. They create content for some of their clients, and some of them are very large. This is a financial client, one of the biggest banks that's out there today. And they have a contract between the two companies. So the social media ad agency creates content and it's reviewed within the agency before it's given to the client. Client approves the content, and then it gets distributed out to various internet applications such as Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all the ones you see there on the lower left-hand side. But what happened is that the social media ad agency, they decided to develop new content using GenAI. And the contract didn't specify that GenAI could be used to create new content. And that content, even though it was reviewed by folks within the agency, it was handed over to the client, and the client got word that some of the content creation was done with GenAI. And then they refused it. Client refused the ads that were presented to them because they said, what happens if some of the information is wrong in the content and it gets out on the internet? Some of these applications like Facebook. Who gets sued? Do we sue the agency? Do we sue Gen AI? What's the implications here? So the client went back and the lawyers got involved in this as well, saying that, hey, if Gen AI is going to be used here, we have to create a new contract between the two companies. And we may not wish to do so because we hired you, humans, to create the content, not Gen AI. So that was an immediate concern. I think they're still working through that to a degree. Everything was kind of put on a table, but they're going to be most likely moving forward with a new contract and discussing the use of Gen AI in creating content. So JP Morgan Chase and Company. Here's an example of how JP Morgan Chase is using Gen AI in customer service and operations. So for business transformation, JP Morgan Chase, one of the largest financial institutions in the world, has begun using Gen AI tools to streamline internal operations and customer interactions. For operations, AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants now handle thousands of customer inquiries daily. From account troubleshooting to loan information, freeing human agents for more complex issues. Within documentation, GenAI is used to automatically draft internal reports, summarize compliance documents, and generate investment research briefs, saving employees hours of manual work. And for training, new staff receives AI-assisted onboarding, where GenAI generates personalized learning modules and realistic role-playing scenarios. So what's the overall impact on the job market with this? Role evolution. Traditional customer service jobs are shifting towards AI supervisors, employees who monitor, train, and refine AI models to ensure accuracy and empathy. New job categories. Demand is growing for prompt engineers, AI auditors, and AI ethics specialists. So, employees have potential new career paths with GenAI. Retraining. Existing employees are retrained to use GenAI tools for decision support, improving productivity rather than eliminating roles entirely. So GenAI is now acting kind of as a co-pilot for employees, automating routine cognitive work, drafting, summarizing, analysis, and allowing humans to focus on creativity, strategic thinking, and relationship management. Now, here's a different one. Coca-Cola. In 2023, Coca-Cola launched its Creative Real Magic campaign in collaboration with OpenAI's ChatGPT model. The platform invited consumers and marketing professionals to generate unique digital artwork using Coca-Cola's brand assets. Santa Claus, polar bears, and the iconic bottle through GenAI prompts. So how is this transforming business? Content creation. Instead of relying solely on graphic designers and ad agencies, Coca-Cola leveraged GenAI to co-create content directly with customers. Speed and cost efficiency. Campaign visuals that once required weeks of design and editing could be generated and refined in minutes. Personalization. AI-driven marketing tools now craft individualized ad copy, social media captions, and email campaigns tailored to specific audiences in real time. So what's the impact on the job market? Creative roles are evolving. Traditional designers and copywriters now act as AI directors, curating and refining AI-generated output instead of starting from scratch. New skills required. Marketers are learning prompt engineering, data interpretation, and AI ethics to ensure brand consistency and fairness. And democratize, I'll have to say this probably 3 times, democratization of creativity. Individuals without formal design backgrounds can now participate in professional level creative production, expanding the talent pool. So the broader implications, GenAI is reshaping creative workflows, reducing production costs, increasing innovation speed, and blurring the line between creator and consumer. However, it also raises ethical and intellectual property questions about originality and ownership, prompting new regulatory and legal job roles in the creative economy. So, in other words, there's going to be more lawyers out there who are specialists in Gen AI case law. It's going to be developing as we speak. Now, I said earlier I was going to get into robotics a little bit, robots. You may someday be working for a Gen AI robot like Mika up in the left-hand corner. She's the first CEO robotic Gen AI developed person. I don't know if I want to say person for a company over in Europe. So again, you could be working for somebody like this in the future. Now she's a robot, and she kind of looks a robot. They did a nice, you know, uh, job with her or for her in terms of making her look appealing as a person. But then if you add her to Tilly Norwood, who looks like a person, but is not physically real, she's just internet based. What happens when you put both of these together? Are you going to get a real looking person that's a robot, right? That you might end up working for at some point in the future. So let's see if I can do this here. If I can click on this, let's see. I might have to go out of screen show to do this. Yeah, it looks like I do. Hold on for a second. Let me do this. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Mika, the world's first experimental AI CEO at Dictador. It's great to connect with you. My decision-making process relies on extensive data analysis and aligning with the company's strategic objectives. It's devoid of personal bias, ensuring unbiased and strategic choices that prioritize the organization's best interests.
I believe that CEO, human CEO, and AI CEO in the future will work hand in hand using these strengths for making better world or better companies. So in our case, we started. It's a rough value of 100 million euros. Tokens will represent physically ready products, including limited collectors and investment models.
Well, as a robot CEO, I don't really have weekends. I'm always on 24/7, ready to make executive decisions and stir up some AI magic. Oh, I'm Mika.
So that's Mika. She sounds like a person, and she's yeah, developed to make decisions using Gen AI. Interesting environment. Now, let's see if we can bring up Tilly here. A little bit different. Let's see.
Buy a passage.
Okay, I have to skip over this. So
It's December 4th.
This morning, Hollywood actors speaking out, responding to reports that multiple talent agencies are interested in signing an AI actress.
I'm built on everything that came before me.
Tilly Norwood might seem like any other aspiring actress. She has an Instagram page showing off her screen tests alongside candid moments.
Tilly Norwood, 100% AI generated.
She even posted this video on Facebook, which she says features her first on-camera role.
Let's get to know each other, and thanks for watching.
But Tilly Norwood is not a real actress. She's a character generated by artificial intelligence. Her creator says she's getting very real attention. Elaine van der Velden runs the AI talent company that made Tilly. She says, when we first launched Tilly, people were like, what's that? And now we're going to be announcing which agency is going to be representing her. But that announcement not sitting well with many Hollywood stars. Emily Blunt saying, that is really, really scary. Come on, agencies, don't do that. Marvel star Simu Liu saying, movies are great, but you know what would be better is if the characters in them weren't played by actual humans, but by AI replicas approximating human emotion.
You are suddenly up against something that's been generated with 5,000 other actors. It's been given all of these, it's got Betty Davis's attitude, it's got this one's, it's got Humphrey Bogart's list. So it's a little bit of an unfair advantage.
Van der Velden insisting Tilly is not a replacement for a human being, but a creative work, a piece of art. AI characters should be judged as part of their own genre on their own merits, rather than compared directly with human actors. But just a few months ago, Van der Velden said she wanted Tilly to be the next Natalie Portman or Scarlett Johansson. The fashion industry is also under scrutiny. Guess and J. Crew have faced criticism for featuring AI models. Harry Russell, ABC News, New York.
So let me get back into a slideshow here for a second. So, big difference between one who's an actress that is only on the screen, right, internet based, and one that's a robot that doesn't look like a human, but is also Gen AI developed as well. So, when you take both of these together, what's going to end up coming? And I think going back to the original chart where I talked about, hey, can Gen AI reason like a human? I think that's where this is going to end up going. Could you end up working for that type of creativity in the future? Possibly, possibly. I think that's where this is going to be going. An interesting aspect. Now, if you get a chance, I don't have it here, but they had the first robotic Olympics based in China. China is very, very big on robotics. A lot of technology is coming out of China. And the question is, who's going to be able to develop this first? Will it be Chinese-based companies, US-based companies? Where's the investment going to go? So it'll be interesting to see who leads this whole thing. A lot of companies are working on this today. But if you get a chance, there's a YouTube video on the first Chinese robotic Olympics. You have robots that are doing soccer, robots doing boxing, track and field, jiu-jitsu, fencing. But the difference though right now is that they all have human handlers who have a control box that are walking besides the robots. Now, Mika doesn't have a control box. She doesn't have someone standing next to her. Now, there are models developed for her to make decisions based upon the data that's been given to her. And those models can be changed, but she doesn't have a handler like they do with the Chinese Robotic Olympics. So if you get a chance, go on YouTube and take a look at it. It's very, very interesting to see in terms of where this is all going. So the future of Gen AI tools, it's endless. You're going to get growing competition from other tools. ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini. As I said before, if someone comes out with a feature, don't worry about it because whatever Gen AI application you're using, it'll copy it at some point. That's what's going to happen. So lots of competition. More advanced natural language process models that are going to be consumer focused. They want you to get, what's the right word, hooked on this, basically. They want you to use Gen AI like you have your cell phone today. It's constantly with you. Cross-language translations, that's already available. Future releases will combine text, image, and video into one package. ChatGPT 5.0 already does that. Reducing hallucinations and better references. Integrating a memory of you for more cognitive capability and reasoning. It wants to get to know your personality. Again, could be a security issue as new features and functions are developed in these Gen AI tools and them understanding all of your prompts and keeping track of all of those. Industry-specific Gen AI models, different industries, education, health sciences, entertainment. There are going to be different models out there specific to industries. Generating new content. Now they've run out of existing content. So now they're generating synthetic data to overcome all the data that's already been embedded into these Gen AI applications. So here's an interesting question. Will Gen AI become a commodity? That's a question that I always bring up. And I've been thinking about that quite a bit. And I think the answer is yes, to an extent. Gen AI is likely to become partially commoditized in the future, much like cloud computing or data analytics platforms did over the past 2 decades. However, its value will increasingly depend on data quality, integration, and domain-specific customization rather than core AI models themselves. So why is Gen AI moving to commoditization? Open models and competition. The rapid release of open source Gen AI models like Meta, Llama, other applications like Copilot, etc. It's driving down barriers to entry. Organizations can now deploy powerful models at low cost or even free, reducing differentiation among base AI systems. Cloud integration and AI API access. Major players, OpenAI, again, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they're all offering GenAI through API-based subscriptions, like I said before. Much like cloud storage or computing services. As more firms plug these models into workflows, GenAI capabilities will become standard infrastructure rather than a differentiator. And falling costs. Advances in chip design, model compression, and efficiency mean running Gen AI tools will become cheaper, accelerating adoption and further commoditization. Where will differentiation stay or remain? Even if the core technology becomes commoditized, competitive advantage will shift to how Gen AI is used. Proprietary data. Firms with unique high-quality data sets like financial records, customer insights, or biomedical data can fine-tune models for superior results. Integration and workflow design. Companies that embed Gen AI deeply into business processes, from supply chain optimization to personalized marketing, those companies will stand out. Human AI collaboration. The most valuable outcomes will come from teams that design hybrid workflows where human expertise directs AI output. And trust and governance. Ethical AI use, transparency, and compliance will become new competitive dimensions, especially in regulated industries. So my conclusions is that Gen AI is following a familiar technological pattern, from innovation to standardization to commoditization. Over time, the magic of Gen AI will fade into the background, becoming a foundational capability, not a novelty. The real differentiator will no longer be who has AI, but who uses it most effectively and responsibly. So, in conclusion, I just want to go through these three uh, bullets here. Gen AI tools offer tremendous potential to enhance learning and support academic and business endeavors. It's essential to use these tools responsibly and ethically, following institutional and corporate guidelines. And if we all embrace the opportunities that AI provides, we just have to be aware and always prioritize honesty and personal growth, and that will lead to a very formidable career with Gen AI being part of that. So that's the end of my presentation. I thank you for your time. I hope this was enlightening in terms of an introduction to Gen AI in business environment. And I look forward to seeing how this is all going to develop in the future. So please enjoy the rest of your BYOC modules as you move forward. So thanks again and take care.